You have been lied to about discipline. From childhood, you were taught that discipline means resisting temptation, waking up when you don't feel like it, studying when you are tired, avoiding distractions, saying no to pleasure. And while those things matter, they are not the real definition of discipline. They are surface-level behaviors. Real discipline is much deeper and much more uncomfortable. Real discipline is the ability to act correctly even when your emotions strongly disagree. It is the ability to ignore your own internal noise when that noise tries to sabotage your long-term position. Because the truth is simple. The moment your emotions begin to dictate your actions, you stop being in control of your life. You may think you are free, but you are being steered by fear, pride, insecurity, anger, and the need for approval. And a person ruled by emotion is a person who can be predicted. A predictable person can be controlled, and a controlled person can never accumulate power. Stay with me because this is where most intelligent people lose their advantage. This is purely noetical, where we study power, strategy, and human nature without illusions. In this video, you will understand why Machiavelli believed rulers must act against their own feelings, why the Stoics treated emotion as something that must be examined and corrected, why Thomas Hobbes believed fear shapes human behavior more than love, why Robert Greene warns that visible emotions expose vulnerability, and why modern systems of wealth and influence reward those who subordinate comfort to long-term positioning. Before we continue, understand this clearly. This analysis is educational. It is not encouragement toward cruelty, manipulation, or harm. It is a study of how power functions in reality so you can recognize it, understand it, and protect yourself from being controlled by it. This is not about becoming cold or heartless. It is about becoming stable. It is about becoming difficult to manipulate. And that requires something most people never develop: emotional hierarchy. Let's begin. Machiavelli is often misunderstood. People reduce him to cruelty and manipulation. But what he actually studied was stability. He looked at rulers who lost power. He studied why they failed, and one pattern appeared repeatedly. They acted according to their feelings instead of political necessity. In The Prince, he makes a statement that still shocks people today. It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. This is not a celebration of fear. It is an observation about reliability. Love is emotional. It depends on how people feel today. And feelings change quickly. People love you when you benefit them. They love you when you protect them. They love you when you are generous. But the moment sacrifice is required, that love weakens. Fear, when structured properly, does not depend on emotion. It depends on consequences. And consequences are more stable than affection. Machiavelli noticed something uncomfortable about human nature. People are loyal when it is convenient. They are moral when it is safe. They are supportive when it costs them nothing. But when pressure increases, emotions shift. A ruler who governs based on wanting to be loved becomes emotionally dependent on approval. He avoids necessary punishments. He forgives when enforcement is required. He hesitates because he does not want to appear harsh, and that hesitation creates disorder. This is the part most people ignore. Machiavelli is not teaching cruelty. He is teaching separation between emotion and obligation. Discipline, in Machiavelli's world, means separating your personal feelings from your political responsibilities. You may feel pity, but you enforce. You may feel hesitation, but you act. You may feel uncomfortable, but you prioritize stability over comfort. That is not cruelty. That is emotional subordination to necessity. Thomas Hobbes observed something similar from a different angle. He believed that without structure and authority, human life becomes unstable. Not because people are monsters, but because people are driven by fear, competition, and insecurity. When resources are limited, when status is threatened, when pride is wounded, conflict emerges. Hobbes understood that fear is one of the strongest motivators in human behavior. Not hatred, not love, fear. Fear of loss, fear of punishment, fear of insecurity. Pause here and think carefully. If fear shapes, behavior more reliably than affection. What happens when you allow your emotions to override structure? A leader who reacts emotionally to every insult, every challenge, every criticism creates instability. If a leader punishes out of anger, people fear unpredictability. If a leader forgives out of guilt, people test boundaries. If a leader withdraws out of hurt pride, people lose respect. Discipline means refusing to let personal emotion disrupt structural order. It means asking, what preserves stability? What strengthens position? What maintains control? Not, how do I feel about this right now? Because feelings are temporary. Structures are lasting. Now look at the Stoics. Epictetus taught that people are not disturbed by events themselves, but by their interpretation of those events. Someone insults you. The insult is sound. Your anger is interpretation. Someone rejects you. The rejection is an event. Your shame is interpretation. Someone challenges you. The challenge is neutral. Your fear is interpretation. The Stoics believed that emotion often comes from mistaken judgments about what is truly harmful. You fear embarrassment, but embarrassment does not destroy you. You fear criticism, but criticism does not remove your capability. You fear discomfort, but discomfort is temporary. This is critical because once you see this, you cannot unsee it. So they train themselves to pause, to examine their emotional reaction, to ask, is this emotion useful? Or is it exaggerating the situation? Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself that his mind was under his control, not external events, not other people, not public opinion. His mind. That is discipline, not suppression, examination and correction. Because if you do not examine your emotional response, you become a slave to it. And slavery of the mind is the beginning of weakness. Carl Jung adds another layer to this discussion. He explained that many of your emotional reactions do not come from conscious thought. They come from deeper parts of your psyche. You feel jealous, but the jealousy may come from insecurity you have not confronted. You feel defensive, but the defensiveness may come from past rejection. You feel anger, but the anger may hide fear. Most people never investigate these layers. They simply react. They say, that's just how I am. But Jung would argue that until you become aware of these unconscious forces, they control you. And when unconscious emotion controls behavior, discipline becomes impossible. Ask yourself honestly, how many of your decisions are reactions rather than deliberate choices? True discipline requires awareness. You must notice your fear, notice your insecurity, notice your pride, not to eliminate them, but to prevent them from steering your decisions. Because power requires internal order. If your inner world is chaotic, your external decisions will be inconsistent. And inconsistency destroys authority. Robert Greene brings this into modern strategy. He emphasizes repeatedly that emotion reveals information. When you show anger, people know what provokes you. When you show insecurity, people know where you doubt yourself. When you show desperation, people know what you want. And once people know what moves you emotionally, they can manipulate you. If they know you crave approval, they withhold praise. If they know you fear rejection, they threaten exclusion. If they know you react quickly, they provoke you intentionally. This is where discipline becomes protection. Emotion, when uncontrolled, is exposure. Discipline means emotional opacity. It means you feel deeply, but you choose carefully what is displayed. You become measured, predictable in principle, unpredictable in reaction, and that makes you difficult to control. Now bring this into modern structural power. Thomas Piketty's analysis of wealth shows that power compounds over time. Capital grows slowly. Influence builds gradually. Reputation strengthens through consistency. But compounding requires patience. And patience is emotionally difficult. You may feel bored. You may feel restless. You may feel envious watching others gain attention quickly. You may feel frustrated when results are delayed. Most people quit here. If you obey those emotions, you change direction too quickly. You abandon long-term plans. You chase immediate validation, and you reset your progress repeatedly. Structural power rewards those who endure emotional discomfort for long-term gain. That is discipline at scale. It is not dramatic. It is not loud. It is quiet consistency despite internal resistance. Here is the uncomfortable reality. Most intelligent people fail not because they lack knowledge. They fail because they cannot override their emotional impulses. They know what to do, but they do not feel like doing it. They know confrontation is necessary, but they fear tension. They know consistency matters, but they lose motivation. They know boundaries are required, but they fear disapproval. And every time emotion overrides necessity, position weakens slightly. Not dramatically, but gradually, until power is lost before it was ever gained. Machiavelli would say they lack virtù. Virtue is not goodness. It is strength of character aligned with reality. It is the capacity to act in accordance with necessity even when it conflicts with comfort. That is discipline. Discipline is acting correctly while feeling fear. It is enforcing boundaries while feeling guilt. It is remaining silent while feeling anger. It is continuing while feeling doubt. It is delaying pleasure while feeling desire. You do not eliminate emotion. You outrank it. You allow it to exist, but it does not get the final vote, because the final vote belongs to strategy. And here is the final truth. If your emotions determine your actions, other people can determine your actions. If other people can determine your actions, you are not powerful. Power begins with internal sovereignty, not emotional suppression, not coldness, but emotional subordination to long-term necessity. Machiavelli understood it. The Stoics practiced it. Hobbes structured it. Jung explained it. Green modernized it. And modern systems quietly reward it. Discipline is not self-control in the shallow sense. It is the ability to feel everything and still choose strategically. If this shifted your perspective, do not just agree with it. Apply it. Comment below with one emotion that has been quietly influencing your decisions. Subscribe if you are building internal power deliberately. Because this channel is not about quick motivation. It is a compounding archive of strategic awareness. Each video builds on the last. Each principle strengthens the next. And over time, the structure becomes difficult to shake. Observe yourself this week. When did you act based on mood? When did discomfort change your decision? When did approval influence your direction? Correct it quietly. Because power does not announce itself while growing. It compounds beneath the surface. And those who master their internal world do not rise emotionally. They rise inevitably. This is purely noetical. And this is how discipline truly works.